Yeah, I'd agree with Matt on that because you seem like a data guy. So the other thing with the Solo 2 DL is that you can only add one ACC2. So once you need to expand beyond 4 channels, which it sounds like might happen fairly quickly, you'd be looking at upgrading from there anyway.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Visit deechworks.com for all your fuel system needs. On this episode, we're going to talk about the AIM ecosystem for data. It's been talked about a little bit already. Episode 66 with one of my guests, intermediate data with some AIM talk. Episode 12, when I had Peter Kraus on with the basics of squiggly lines. And when I had the Andre from HP Academy on, we talked a lot about the AIM ecosystem, specifically in Dash PDM world, but not about each of the items. But it applies to me because I'm officially getting coaching, and most of the coaches like to use AIM, and I need to start looking at car-related data in general because the drivers sort of worked out. I already know what my weaknesses are. Anyway, I have 2 guests today. I'm getting greedy, or I need a ton of help. I don't know, but we're going to go with greedy and still needing a lot of help all at the same time. One is a prior guest that has more technology in his 914 than God ever intended. The other, I stalked on the internet, and he's a Subaru nerd that is in most of AIM's YouTube content. Bryc from AIM USA and Matt from trailbreak.com. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you. You hit the nail on the head with my description, I think.
I think you nailed mine too.
Yeah. So, Matt, what have you been up to in the last 50 episodes or so?
Oh, man.
Podcast?
I have been at the track. I have bought some go-karts. I have been to PRI. A lot of data work. I know more and more about websites every day. So
you did update your website. I went to check and I was like, hey, this changed a lot. So
yes, I will still say I know way more about data than websites. It wasn't actually updated at this point on purpose.
Okay. Bryc, you're new to the podcast. Give some folks your background with AIM and how you got into motorsports and stuff.
Well, before AIM, I was working at a automotive dealership, and how I even got into AIM is the vice president's stepson came into the dealership, and I was appraising cars at the time. He had actually a Subaru WRX that he was looking to sell. So we bought that from him. Me and him ended up talking, and he was telling me about AIM, and he's like, oh, well, you should come check it out sometime. And we had just bought his car. So he needed a ride back there, basically. So I was like, oh, I'll just give you a ride back. I'll come check it out. And we got to talking. They weren't looking for anyone right at that exact moment, but he had my information. And I think probably like 4 or 5 months later, he called me and was like, hey, you want a job? And I was like, yeah. So motorsports has always been a big passion of mine. And just kind of cars in general. Working at a dealership, you don't get to scratch that itch quite so much. So of course I jumped on going to AIM. Started out as a technician, but let's see, I've been working there for a little over 6 years now. And in that time, I've taken on managing the social media, doing some of the YouTube content. We also have our national training manager, Roger Cadell, who does a lot of the analysis side of things that gets posted on YouTube. But I've started doing tech tips. I've got some product highlight videos that are coming out. And then I also do manage some of the sponsorship requests, as well as, some marketing sides of things, and do all of the planning for the PRI show that Matt was just talking about, which is usually a pretty big undertaking. We have a bunch of people from AIM, both the East Coast and the West Coast office, that come out for that, as well as some of the guys from the manufacturer in Italy. And then also some cool dealers like Matt come out with us too.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of posts from you guys at PRI. So I was like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, so you press the button on the phone and that's how I would do it. But,
yep.
But yeah, so, well, that's awesome. I meant to be there this year. Unfortunately, I'm on schedule to have major house repairs done, and we had a roof put on. So money disappeared this winter and fall. So,
yeah.
Oh, the racing budget. No.
Life always gets in the way.
I heard that.
I've spent 3 months trying to get a septic system replaced. Just someone to look at it. That's how crazy it's been. And then the roof was a whole monster in itself. At least people wanted to come do that. But anyway, yeah, lots of money gets flushed away when you have a house. Sometimes I wish I rented still, but whatever.
I feel that. Me and my wife bought a house 2.5 years ago now, and ever since then, it's just been multi-$1,000 thing after multi-$1,000 thing.
Yeah. Yeah. In addition to the race car multi-$1,000 thing here and there and all that stuff. So,
yeah, but you can live in a race car. You can't race a house.
That's
I have a Civic, and I doubt Matt really wants to live in his 914, but
in my old age, I have become soft. About 25 years ago, it didn't sound bad.
My wife probably thinks it sounds bad.
Oh, mine absolutely does, because there's nowhere for her to sit in my car. But anyway, okay. So let me get on topic here, because I'm going to start getting coaching, and I live within a set of rules. Okay. So, NASA Mid-Atlantic has a supplemental that says you have to have a camera going all the time. And initially, when I first started racing, I had a 2000 Civic Coupe, and now I have a 2007 Civic Coupe. But the 2000 Civic Coupe, I had an AIM Solo 2 and a GoPro. This GoPro right here, I don't know how it actually is still alive, because I thought I crushed all of them, because none of them work, right? and I live the open trailer life, so the ecosystem is a little tough for me. Was a little tough for me, where you got to take the laptop and you have to download after every session. You should download after every session. And so it got a little tough for me, and we had this requirement, and I knew I was going to get caught because the GoPros quit working. And I don't think the Solo 2 and the Smarty Cam link up, right?
No.
Right.
Correct.
So me being impulsive and shiny new objects, I bought a Garmin Catalyst, and it meets my needs. And I actually probably won't get rid of it, because redundancy, at least with the video stuff, is wonderful for what I do. That, and I can swap it around with people pretty easily.
Right.
And then it's really easy for them to use and sort of learn how to start doing data. But I need more, right? I need, at minimum, the ability to get data and then also have a video. So the Solo 2 is like $460-ish bucks, but the Solo 2 DL is about $800. And that one has capability, right?
It's easily worth the price difference with the added capability. The Solo 2 is great. It's a great, GPS based lap timer for people who are, just weekend warriors just starting to get into it.
Right.
But when you're running series like you do and you need to have a camera, it really helps to have a Solo 2 DL because that integrates just natively with the cameras. And the Smarty cams that we have work great with that too, because they're a camera that's designed specifically for motorsports, which the GoPros, they have their place, but they're not designed specifically for motorsports. They're designed to kind of be a Swiss Army knife and be able to do a little bit of everything. Our cameras can do automatic overlays from data that's coming from the Solo 2 DL. They have an automatic power on and power off. They have automatic start stop. So there's no having to remember to turn it on. There's no having to remember to hit the record button. There's no having to do any kind of post-processing in order to get the overlays like you would if you were, using a Solo or a Solo 2 and a GoPro or something. Because there are programs like Race Render and stuff that you can do that, but it takes a lot more time and a lot more effort. You can't just, download the data and it's all there. So there's that. And then the Solo 2 DL also, and this was kind of a recent addition, they've made it so that you can add a ACC2 channel expansion. So you can actually get analog channels into the Solo 2 now, which used to be a thing that was reserved for our higher level, dash loggers and PDMs and things like that. So it's a great starter for people who are getting into really starting to do a lot of racing and digging into data. And it's also pretty expandable because you've got GPS information, you've got, now the ability for analog channels, and you've got on a lot of vehicles, you'll have compatibility with the ECU, or at the very least have an analog RPM input with the Solo 2 DL. So it's very worth the extra money.
Right. So, okay. Matt, do you remember the Smarty cam that, I don't know, it's like this long and it looks like a old milk bottle turned on its side?
The Torpedo.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the OG.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to assume that one is not compatible with the Solo 2 DL, right?
Don't use it.
Correct.
That's very legacy product at this point.
Well,
Yes.
I have one for your museum because it was given to me because they were like, you need this, get rid of that GoPro, right? And I was trying to figure out how to make it work, and it was old when I got it. I don't know, 5 years ago. So
yeah, I think those were probably circa like 2008 or something. Matt might actually know better than I do, but yeah, that's getting up there in age for electronics for sure.
And I think that the technology's come so far. So if we back up a little bit, I think the plain Solo 2 is awesome for a few different users. If budget's a big concern, it's awesome because it's not hard to learn that much from it.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cars anymore, it's one tire. If you, like for me, it's two tires, right? And I have really cheap tires. So I think in that way, it's a great way. So if you're sort of data curious, the Solo 2 is like the intro to try out to see what you want. And then just like you're planning to do with your Catalyst, it's the perfect product to put in a friend's car. And now two of you can share some data and you get the speed in 80% of a big system, maybe 70% of a big system. And then when you put the camera with the Solo 2 DL, it opens all these new possibilities because the only thing you have to remember to do is put the memory card back in. And then I tell everyone, get two of them. So when you take one out, you put one in and the thing's always ready to go. So yeah, and then you connect it to the car and there's so much to get from it. And the other cool thing with the Solo 2 DL when you start there is that everything you get for that Solo 2 DL carries over to all the other devices.
Okay.
So if you, in the future, you do anything, nothing's wasted.
So so I started digging and I was like, okay, they make the Solo 2 DL. It's a track day kit, right? So it comes with a mount. It mounts the camera, the Smarty Cam 3, the mount, and the Solo 2 DL all in one package. I retrofitted my car with a cigarette lighter after I ripped it all out, so everything charges that way. Because the other thing I hated about my original Solo 2 was the battery sucked on it. Like that was the worst part about my Solo system. But if I can keep it plugged in all the time, we're good, right? And I probably should have done that. But my first car, well, the wires, I probably tried to burn it down 4 or 5 times. So the wiring in that car was suspect, right? Anyway, I that's what I was going to ask, because it's about 1,500 maybe. I have your website up, but I haven't started clicking around to find it. But it's say 1,600-ish zone for the track day kit, I think. And then you can expand that for more money, right? So one of my questions was, what will the Solo 2 DL display if I'm expanding it?
So like I already mentioned, you can add an ACC2 channel expansion. So that's going to be 4 analog inputs.
Right.
And those are going to be things like your temperature sensors, your pressure sensors, things like that. Then you can also add a LC1S, which is our lambda monitoring system. So if you need to monitor lambda and your air fuel ratio. And then they did also, and this hasn't really been a problem, it's just kind of a nice thing, is you can, even though it has an internal GPS, they've recently made it so that you can, if you have to mount your Solo 2DL in a place where it is covered or underneath something, you can still add an external module to that. Mm-hmm. So you've got all of those inputs. You've got the Smarty Cam connection, and then you've got whatever we can get from your car, and that does vary a bit. Every car, every ECU is different. We have to have a different ECU protocol, a different understanding for each one of them. But the vast majority of the cars that are raced, we've got some type of ECU connection to. Sometimes it's just going to be a simple OBD2 connection, where we might get 8 to 12 channels or something, but they're usually what Roger Cadell would call the money channels, which are going to be all the important ones. And then we have some connections that are direct to ECU that are going to have like some of them have 40, 50 channels on them. It all depends on the vehicle, but there's a lot of stuff there, a lot of things that can be used. And also, if you've got something not coming from the ECU that you really want, you can usually add an analog channel for it. So that's pretty much all there.
Yeah. But the display itself, everyone I know
on the display.
Yeah. Everyone I know uses a Solo 2 or a DL. I guess they just got rich, but it's their favorite lap timer, right? Rarely do I see people really use the Solo and the Solo 2 DL for data in my world. Maybe in other worlds. I talked with Scott Robertson from Track Walking, and he confirmed that in GLTC and in Mid-Atlantic Honda Challenge, if there's a Solo 2 in there, it's only a lap timer, basically. But can the display be changed? And I was doing some research, and I'm assuming you need to do Race Studio to change your display. Can you change the display on a Solo 2 DL to give you like lap times and some temperatures that you're logging? Yeah,
for sure. So I think you can do up to, so this is changes you have to make in our software, Race Studio 3, and then you just send the configuration over to the unit. But I think you can do up to 8 or 9 pages and up to 4 different data fields on each one of those pages. So you can set up, a lap timing page. You can set up a driver inputs page. You can set up a engine health page. Or you can do, combinations of those if you want to have, like your best time and your predictive time, and then also have a important temperature that you're trying to monitor. You can have that all on one page.
Okay.
I think one of the things a lot of people don't display more is as a driver, that predictive lap timing is so powerful. And one of the cool features that the Solo 2 DL can do, and the other products, is that you can load a reference lap from an AIM file.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have your best lap ever, you can use that as the predictive reference. And then the way I like to use it is instead of saying I'm going to run a 1 minute lap or something, um, it will just say I'm plus a second or minus a second or whatever it is. And I find that to be more powerful because I don't have to think anymore. Like it just tells me I'm better or worse. And then the way I use it a lot is before I enter the corner, I glance at it and it says, say, minus a second. If I come out of the corner and it says minus 1.1, I know I was a tenth better.
Mm-hmm.
And you get held up in traffic, and then you come to the next corner, it says +2, and you come out and it says, plus 1.8. You know you were 2/10 better, and you start working on that. So it lets you always work on your driving as you're out there.
Right.
I think that's why you see it so often. But yeah, I would say the most of the time I see people with predictive lap time or lap number or a speed maybe sometimes people will put on there, really driver sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they download their data, they get everything else. So then they're going to look at their throttle position and their brakes and all that.
Okay.
The other cool thing, speaking of predictive timing too, with the Solo 2 DL, there's an LED strip across the top of it. And that can be used if you've got an RPM signal, that can be used for a shift light, or it can be used for predictive timing as well. So, and the way that works is you just set it up in the configuration that each LED that comes on is a certain time increment. So usually like a tenth of a second or 2/10 of a second. And then green means you're faster. Red light means you're slower. So if you have like two LEDs on, that would mean, and they're green, that would mean you're going 2/10 faster. So for some people, that's a little bit easier than actually trying to look at and process a number. And I think there's also some people that probably use both, but that's super helpful too.
Yeah, I've actually seen some people, because you can load multiple configs on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people do it where they use it as RPM lights as they're racing or practicing, and then they change the configuration, so then they'll use it with predictive lights for qualifying.
So I saw the whole Solo 2 DL package, and I'm actually glad it brings it back into my thought process, because you said that you can do the expansions for it, and then you can graduate from the Solo to a dash and keep the wiring from the expansions to that port all the same. You just swap out your Solo 2 and then plug your expansion into your dash, and you're basically ready to go. I mean, I know you have to configure your dash for everything, but
Yep.
Because initially I was looking. See, I like to be a little flashy at least and not poor all the time. So I was initially looking at the MXM dash as a smaller, it's a LCD liquid crystal display, basically a black and white display with the colored LEDs around it, right? It seems pretty budget friendly at $1,300 for a dash that will do some data, right? And then you can build to what you wanted.
Definitely.
For the most part, yeah. It's not quite as expandable as some of the other dashes.
Okay.
But for example, there's only 4 analog inputs on the harness for the MXM.
Okay.
Whereas if you have both the harnesses for one of the other dashes, you'd have 8, and there's some speed channels and things that aren't there, but it does 95% of what any of like the MXS or MXG or MXP would do. And the other kind of cool thing that's unique to the MXM that we don't have other than our PDM, we don't have any other products that have like a high power output on it, but there are 2 15 amp outputs on the back of the MXM if you need to use that to drive a fan or a relay or something. So that part of it is kind of cool with the MXM.
Yeah. So I saw the power relay, the ability to drive them on that, and I'm literally in the midst of plumbing and wiring a transmission cooler, and setting up. So it has a pump that needs to get powered, and then I need to divorce my radiator fan from the factory harness, essentially. And then, so I need to be able to drive it from some sort of logic that I set up, right? So if it will do that, that's really good for me, instead of having to figure out the factory switch that says, hey, it's getting hot, let's turn the fan on, is a little bit too slow for a race car. So I get these spikes in my ECU data logging. So
yeah, you can for sure do that, as long as it's not more than 30 amps, because there's two power outputs that are 15 amps. You can combine the two if it's more than 15 amps, but any more than 30 amps needed, you need to be looking at one of our PDMs.
okay.
Well, actually, you could still use it. You would have to wire in a relay. And if you put a relay in, you could still use the logic in the MXM. And one of the really cool things that the MXM has built in for the alarms is it's called hysteresis. So you can turn the fan or the pump, whatever it is, on early and then have it turn off later. So say as the car warms up, it tries to go nuclear really quick. So you have the fan turn on at 150, but then so it doesn't just jog around 150, you don't turn it off until, say, 145. That way you're not short cycling the fan or the pump all the time.
Okay.
And it's one I tell people, it really helps you because it becomes an iterative process that you can go out and collect some data and then use that to fine tune those controls. Say like, well, when do I need to turn it on? And what is the best temperature to run the motor? And how do I try to keep it there? Just like throwing out crazy ideas. If you ran two fans, right, you could run them sequentially.
Mm-hmm.
You can do all kinds of stuff like that. It's sort of how far you want to imagine that you could run with it. And the other neat thing with the MXM over the Solo 2DL, it gives you the alarm lights. And those alarm lights you can configure for color, not just to turn on or off. So if you have coolant temperature, you can color it the way I always do it. I make it blue when the engine's cold. So say it's under 120 degrees, you get a blue light. And then when the thing's normal, it turns off. When it starts to heat up and you need to pay a little attention, you can turn it yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's a real warning, you turn it red.
So I have a question, because I just jotted down quickly what I want to see. So here's my other conundrum in my life is I bought the most expensive autometer gauges that they make. And they're absolutely the worst thing I ever wasted my money on.
Oh no.
If you believed those gauges, my motor would have died on the dyno. And it survived hours and hours and hours at 8,800 RPM. And anyway, so when I first built this car, I put them back in, and then I was like, yeah, that was dumb. I already know these don't work. Why did I even waste the time to wire them, right? So they're going to come out of my vehicle. And because I know I have a temperature issue with my transmission, that's why I have a pump and a cooler. I need to track transmission temperature, coolant temperature, oil pressure, and oil temperature. Now, I know because I have a stupid year Honda of 2007. If you have a 2008, you get all sorts of stuff from the ECU, right? But my 2007 will only give me coolant temperature and will only give me oil pressure. So does that just mean I need two analog inputs for the transmission and the oil temp?
You got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, which we make sensors for that too. So
right.
Easy integration.
So we can cheat a little bit. I know it only gets 4 analog, right?
Which one are we still talking about? The Solo 2 DL, or are we on the
MXM?
It's 4 on the harness.
Okay.
Yeah, you can still add expansions after that. Yeah.
Oh, see, now we're talking.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw it, I was like,
most of our stuff, it's pretty expandable. Like there's every now and then you'll have to actually, if you want to get to the next level, have to swap out the main unit, but most of the stuff is pretty expandable and you can keep adding to it.
well, so
And this is probably a good time
go ahead.
with the expansions that AIM recently came out with they call it the ACC2, and it's changed how I wire up cars because it's barely bigger than a matchbox, and it's totally in line with the harness, with the wiring. So where I used to do home runs and I would take like the MXM and I would run all the sensors from everywhere to it, or if it was a dash, I'd run all the wires to it. So I'd have 8 channels coming in. What I do now is I put the ACC2 in the engine bay because towards your point with the open trailer, all the AIM products are tested to IP67. So like you can get them wet, you can get them dirty. It's not a problem. So I stick this in the engine bay and then I have it really close to all my sensors and I only run one cable back to the dash. So like if you're going to monitor, say, your transmission temp, your you said you're going to get oil pressure and coolant. So you're going to run transmission temp and
Oil temp.
Oil temp.
Because you're only going to use 2 channels, you put them direct because that's the most cost effective way. But if you were going to add more and more, I'd say put an ACC2 in the engine bay, put your sensors to it, and then use the dash channels for things that are really close to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you're going to get coaching, this is the perfect time, like add a brake pressure sensor.
Right. And a steering angle sensor.
Yep.
It's a slippery slope. Trust me.
Yeah.
How much data do you want? We can get it.
Right. Yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy about how much is enough.
Well, so I do data every day as for my job. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would get really ugly. Like I'd start exporting stuff and doing weird things and it would get really bad. I know what I was doing with my Solo 2 was after every event, because I didn't have that ecosystem at the track with me. I would come home, I would download, I would update my track maps, I would update my notes on my track maps, I would go through, I would do my studies, basically my download, and then be ready to study for the next time I hit that track. And I had competitors go, "Hey, how'd you find 2 seconds?" Well, you guys are finding it at the track, right? Like, because they had the ecosystems. The one person that said it, he downloads from his dash every time he goes out, right? I had to go home, download, study, and make changes, right? Like that's it. I don't get it in real time, but you can still get it. So that was a big thing for me. I'm going to make an effort to do it at the track. Let's put it that way. Because I have to. My group is way too competitive not to. I don't want to wait 2 months before I get to drop 2 seconds. I'd rather wait a day maximum, So what does the MX, the full size, like the MXS, the MXP, G, and T, what does that get me over the M outside of, well, I know it's a thin film transistor display, so it's color and beautiful, by the way.
Yes.
What does that get me? Also, I want to confirm that if I take the MXM harness and I want to upgrade, can I just plug in the new dash to the same harness?
You could, but I think there's a speed channel that's missing on the MXM's harness.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. So it's not, it would work for most things, but it's not. I'd just recommend putting in the correct harness for it.
Okay.
But it would plug up and all the things that were there would work. You get, obviously the full color displays, which are super nice. And, especially for, people who aren't in the habit of looking down at their dash for things they need to be monitoring, sometimes having that be color and having that pop a bit more is helpful.
And flashing red when you set your alarms.
Exactly. Like you can do a full page like red. Your oil pressure is non-existent. Danger to manifold. Whatever.
The welds on your manifold are gonna fail.
Yeah,
just like that.
Exactly. Yeah, we had to throw that reference in there for sure. So yeah, the alarms are a lot more flexible because there's more LED alarms on the side with all of those. And then you can have a full page pop up. You can have any combination of LED alarms and colors, and either solid or slow blinking or flashing quickly. You can have just a message at the bottom of the dash for an alarm. And also it's probably worth, so the MXS, the MXP, the MXG, and the MXT are all, as far as their functions, they're all pretty much the same. It's really just a size difference and a little bit, some of them, a little bit different LED alarm layout just because of the size difference, and the shape is slightly different. But as far as the function of them, they're all going to be able to do the same things. So there's that. There's also a secondary CAN bus on all of those. So that's in addition to, there's actually technically 3. So we have like a proprietary CAN bus that all of our stuff communicates on. Then a lot of our stuff has CAN 1, which is typically used for like the ECU CAN. And then all the MXSP GT, they have a secondary CAN bus, which can be used for a lot of different things. I'll let Matt expand on that a little bit more, because I know he likes to use that a lot for tire pressure monitoring and things like that. He's got some cool stuff.
Yeah, so the second CAN bus opens a ton of possibilities. So if you have a Solo 2 DL or an MXM, you only get one CAN bus. So what does that mean to the average person? You can only connect your ECU. But say you have a car, you add ABS to it. Like your rules allow it, and you add one of the popular ones. Or like, I sell a tire pressure monitoring system that I think is a tremendous value for how much you learn. That stuff goes on CAN too, because a lot of ECUs, and especially stock ones, if there's any extra communication on that CAN, it throws it into all faults. Your dash lights up, things don't work. You end up having to reset it. It turns into a pain. When you have the second CAN bus, you get to put all kinds of stuff on it. So it can be biometrics. It could be a heart rate monitor. It could be a specific set of sensors. Like I do a lot with tire temps, and it could be a tire temp sensor. It could be tire pressures. It could be an ABS controller, all sorts of stuff like that. And it gives you the possibility to just add more and more stuff.
Okay, I have to ask this because it's come up in conversation recently. I'm training for mountain bike racing. I wear a Garmin watch when I race because I track it through the Garmin app. How am I going to hook up a heart rate monitor to the system? And how many people are doing that?
So it depends at the level of driver. And this could be its own podcast. This gets super crazy. At the top levels, it's done all over. Okay. Like F1, it's built into their gloves.
Okay, I could see that.
Yep. And it's been done that way for a long time. Through IndyCar, IMSA, those top levels.
Okay.
A lot of them do it. The teams that are super serious do it. I always think the most prolific person that puts stuff out there is Jordan Taylor. Mm-hmm. If you follow any of his social media stuff, you see just how fit those drivers are. I would guess he has it monitored all the time. And in other forms of sports at a high level, they do it all the time.
Right.
At the club level, I'd say a lot of people do it on their wristwatch or their whatever their wearable is. I've been putting it in the data system for probably a decade, because when you have it separate, like you can look at it and go, what was the temperature in the car? How long was the session? And it gives you more context to that data. And the more context you have, the more you can work with it.
Yeah. No,
But as far as the actual hardware, though, I think you wanted to...
The hardware is a simple add-on box. It plugs into CAN 2 and a little bit of configuration, and then you can set it to pick up one device, or endurance teams will use it.
Can I just buy like a Whoop or whatever that normally tracks
Yeah.
it and then somehow get it plugged in? Okay.
Yeah, the most popular one is an armband whoop.
Okay.
Almost every driver likes that. And then what's pretty cool with it is they all have serial numbers. So if you have an endurance team,
Uh-huh.
it puts the serial number in and you know who was in the car without having to come up with some other antic.
Okay.
That's cool.
Have you ever seen anybody track their breath? Like how often they're breathing and when they stop breathing, when they pause?
Yes, it's a harder thing because the sensors are based on your chest size.
Okay.
And when you get all your driver's suit and the underwear and then you get belted in, it's a harder thing to measure, but it is done.
Okay. Sorry, I sidetracked us because I literally had this conversation a couple days ago and you were bringing this up, and because it's another podcast that wants to talk about it, and I was like, I don't know anybody. I tried to get a fitness person on and we didn't really go down that rabbit hole, but this is really interesting.
I can tell you it's like a 4-year rabbit hole, and
Uh-huh.
I'm happy to go as deep as you want whenever you want.
Okay, awesome. I may hand you over to this person because I don't like stealing other people's ideas, but
All good.
yeah. Okay, so the MX, SP, G, and T, they're larger. They're more expandable. They're in color. They have different warning screens and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've lived with the old Honda before, and I know one day I'm going to look at my car and be like, I can't deal with any of this factory anything anymore. And I'm going to go to a PDM. And I've probably, since you guys announced the PDM, I've wanted one. And I've literally wanted one because you can spend $2,000 on a PDM or you can spend $2,500 on a PDM and a dash. And I'm like, who wouldn't want a $500 dash? And then I talked to Andre and he was like, yeah, if you don't have the dash, the PDM does a lot of good stuff, but it really opens up everything when you have the dash. So
the PDM is sweet,
okay,
because it's obviously it's a PDM, a power distribution module,
correct,
which takes place of, if you wire it all in, takes place of all the fuses and relays in your car, and also makes all of those able to be logged. So that makes tracking down electrical gremlins and alternators that are starting to go bad, things like that, makes it very easy to track down. But it's also a full data logger. So it has essentially all the same data logging capabilities as an MXS or something like that. And also is a display. So it's kind of all in one. The only other thing to think about in terms of cost with the PDM is wiring. Cause if you're going to completely wire a car to be set up based around the PDM, it is a lot of wiring. Some people can do it themselves, some people not. We do offer a universal harness for that type of thing that makes it really easy, where everything's just already terminated to the connector. It just comes with a whole bunch of flying leads for the power outputs, and all of those are marked for which one it is. So then all that's left for the end user to do is to then go connect those power leads to whatever it is that they want to power, and then set up the logic for the power output in Race Studio 3.
Yeah, my recommendation is, and I haven't done it yet because I don't own one yet, but I will one day, I promise, that don't buy your stuff on Amazon when you're about to wire your PDM, okay? Because you're going to cause a gremlin you don't need to cause if you're going to do it yourself. Like, I know most of the people who will do it themselves know where to buy the right things, or they will buy your universal harness and then customize it to themselves. But I'm sure we'll just go with half of the people who think they can do it.
That's generous.
I like to be generous. Okay. It's a new year. It's a new me.
I've seen
right?
I've seen some wonky setups.
Yeah.
So yeah, for everyone who knows exactly what they're doing when it comes to wiring and that stuff, there's also some people that probably belong nowhere near wiring, but
Oh, that's me.
And I think I think that's one of the big differences between when you step up to the PDM from a dash is the dashes are all monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
They're not controlling everything. They're monitoring it. They're checking it. They're recording it. When you get to the PDM, you're controlling everything. So you're not just going to monitor and see what everything's doing. You get to control it. So you have to pick, like, I've helped a lot of people with PDMs, and one of the ones is they go like, well, how do I wire my lights? I'm like, well, how do you want to wire them? Because we could wire each corner individual. Like, say you're a endurance race that runs night races, maybe you want each corner on its own circuit. And then if you get bumped, you do something, you always have one light.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's a streetcar and you have to do left and right so you can have your blinkers correct. Brake lights, is it one light? Is it one circuit or two? Or maybe three that you run a third light, right? So there's all these things that you have to start planning around. I've had very few customers who are not successful in being able to implement it if they plan correctly.
Okay.
And that's why I work with people really hard to make sure their install is a success, because it's easy to get sidetracked with it and miss, one of the first ones I did, and it happens all the time in race cars, is somebody goes to show up to the track and they go, my transponder's not working. And then they realize they forgot to power it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or pay their subscription these days, but yeah.
But you can't see it, right? It's like one of those ones. So I have a way, I've worked with a lot of people to make sure they get all those things. And then you have to, what's cool about the PDM is you get to pick how you want to control things. So I helped a guy with a Ferrari Dino and he kept all the old switches, and we were able to do that. So you never knew that there was a PDM in it. Other people want the keypad, and you get the CAN keypad that works on the AIM proprietary bus, and you can make it light any way you want. You can make the buttons do anything you want. You can make combinations of buttons. They're so powerful that you have this great control strategy in the keypad. You have great controls in the PDM, so you can make things sequential. You can make it monitor things and give you warnings. And then you have all the power outputs to run that stuff.
So if I have a MXP, say I got a really nice performance bonus at work, and I want to add a PDM, right? Do I just buy the PDM and does it work with the MX series, or do I sell the MXP on Facebook Marketplace, which I know Bryc is very fond of?
Yes, I had an angry post about selling something
a couple
earlier.
Hours ago. Yeah.
Yes.
And what's your time frame?
Yeah. So the answer is yes. You can do any number of those things.
Okay. So I can.
The PDM doesn't just natively plug into an MXP or another logger and work. They're both designed to be master units. You can make them work together and communicate because both of them have a secondary CAN bus. You can send messages on that, and we've done that in the past. We've got a lot of desert racers, off-road trucks that have a lot of, lights and motors and things they have to power, and they're running two PDMs and they're set up to communicate together. Or another example of that is if you want to have like a driver and co-driver screen, like sometimes people will use a MXT for the driver and then an MXT Strata, which is the non-data logging version, that just kind of has what the co-driver needs to see. So you can make it work. It's not the easiest thing to do if you're not familiar with CAN, but our software does make it pretty easy. But shameless hardware plug, we've got an EPM coming out, which is expansion power module. Hasn't quite started shipping yet, but we should be getting it sometime first half of this year, and that is going to be set up to be a display or a slave PDM, basically. So you can, if you don't have enough power outputs with your PDM, you can get an EPM to go along with it, or it could be added to a dash too. Like if you already have an MXS or an MXP or something, you'll be able to add an EPM to that, and it's just going to treat it like any other expansion. Basically, you'll still, it'll communicate through AIM CAN, and you'll set it up in whatever your master unit's configuration is, and just have another tab basically where you set up all the power outputs. So it's about to be a lot easier to do that.
So you're telling me the off-road people have two 32 slot PDMs?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And sometimes that's not enough. Because they've got a ton of lights, a ton of cooling's a big thing. So a ton of radiator fans and pumps, and some of those trucks are 1,000 horsepower. The fuel pumps are going to be a lot. Some of them have like two fuel tanks where they're pumping one into another and things like that. A lot of them have lights like on the the roof or whatever, where there is actually a motor that controls that whole light bar where it can rotate if they need to aim it in a different direction. So there's a lot of power needs on those. So yeah,
I mean, yeah, I did a UTV, so side by side, and we ran out of power with the 32.
Oh,
and if coming from the road racing world, when you start to look at off road, it is so different that like they have cooling demands on their shocks.
yes.
Right. Like, and then, it seems odd to us. They have heated seats a lot of times because when you're in the desert in the middle of the night and it's freezing cold. Yeah. So the requirements are so different, but what's pretty cool that as I've got to work in so many things, from boats to cars to off-road stuff, is just like the ACC, the EPMs open up possibilities that now maybe instead of running 132 channel PDM, maybe you run an 8 in the front and the back. So the power source is really close to your fans. If you have a bunch in the front and you have your car, everything's in the front. Basically, if you have a car that's rear-wheel drive. Right. So, but maybe you put one in the back if there's a lot of PDMs that go in street cars. So maybe you put the EPM in the back and you handle the taillights and all those functions in the back with it. So it gives you so many more possibilities as you try to set stuff up.
Okay.
Or I'm sure you're sort of like me, is I had everything set up in my 914. I went from carburetors to fuel injection, and all of a sudden I have this power requirement. I did it before the EPM came out, but I know where my first EPM is going. And it's just outside of reach of my right hand in the 914 to run all the fuel injection. So it's pretty cool. And then even with like the EPM is or a PDM, if you started out with that Solo 2 and you had an ACC2 in there and the Lambda controllers and a camera, when you take that out, you can plug those all into the PDM and you keep everything. And maybe one of the parts that I think is so cool that we didn't talk about, and maybe it's one of the coolest features, all the data is completely comparable. So if you have a PDM with expansions and all kinds of crazy stuff, you can import that data and you can take your buddy's plain Solo 2 data and compare it.
Right.
It's not, sometimes you get in these situations where people have different levels of systems and the data doesn't match up or doesn't, this way it all works together. And then if you started out with that Solo 2 and then you progress your way through the systems and your car changes and your needs change, you never lose that historical data. You always have it.
Yeah, because Race Studio is the heart of all of it in the end, right? So when you get to use... it doesn't matter.
There's even cloud storage now.
Yeah. All the channels in the world, we have base channels in all the devices. You expand some here or there, or expand a ton. We're an off-road buggy with 64 freaking things on the PDM, right? Like somehow we're going to record it all, okay? But the base information stays the same no matter where you are in the ecosystem. Whether you start with the Solo 2 and then graduate to something else. That I think that's really helpful, especially for people like me who I'm like, all right, I'm going to get into this and I know I need to grow in this ecosystem, but to know that the day I start, the stuff I recorded with the old car, I still have it, right? And so when I when I put AIM in the new car and I start comparing the two, I'll know the differences between the two cars, or maybe I can blame myself, right? So
there you go.
So here's my question. We're at 54-ish minutes in. You guys you've heard my story. You've sort of know about my car, so you can ask more questions, and volunteer for who wants to go first. But what do you recommend for me to get started?
How badly do you need those power outputs?
I don't,
because if you really want to do that, it's going to be MXM.
Oh,
but if not, Solo 2 DL.
Okay.
I mean, your car's running and driving, and it does everything you want right now.
Yes. So
minus the data.
Minus the data. All I have is Garmin driver data. I don't have the ability to see what I'm doing on the throttle pedal. I don't have the ability to see brake pressure, which is probably one of my biggest problems, to be honest.
Everybody's biggest problem,
yes,
right?
It's everybody.
Let's be honest.
Right. But it's really bad for me, apparently. I don't know. Well, I don't know because I don't have the data, right? So
yep.
Part of me says I should get a Solo 2 DL and a Smarty Cam, and then I'll have my redundancy on camera stuff, and then I'll try to do like nightly downloads of my AIM, and then depending on how healthy the car is, I can either use the Garmin and then work on the car, or do downloads. I don't know. I like the MXM idea because of my power needs. I literally want to walk downstairs and grab my pump and stuff and make sure 15 amps is enough. But yeah, so what is your recommendation, Matt?
I go to MXM.
Okay.
Having talked this through with you.
Okay.
The power outputs are a great extra feature that you might or might not use, right? Like you're going to see the requirements and what you want to do. I look at more, you do a lot of data and you're experienced in that part. So as you get into this, you're going to want more. And you're going to want to know what the car's doing. And then you're going to have this great coaching engagement, and you're going to have video from it. And you're going to go, geez, I really wish I knew when I hit the throttle. I really wish I knew how much I was on the brakes. And you're going to want those extra sensors pretty quick.
Okay.
The MXM.
I'd agree. Yeah, I'd agree with Matt on that, because you seem like a data guy. So the other thing with the Solo 2 DL is that you can only add one ACC2. So once you need to expand beyond 4 channels, which it sounds like might happen fairly quickly, you'd be looking at upgrading from there anyway. But I mean, it rolls downhill really fast. Like, you might be able to add all the analog channels in the world to the MXM, but then you'll want a secondary CAN bus, and then you'll need to get an MXS.
But I think it's so easy to have that mission creep.
Yep.
And I am the worst, because I'm like, ramen doesn't taste that bad. I could eat this every day. Right? Like, I am the king of that problem.
Yeah.
But the other part for you is where you're worried about some of these temperatures and you have things you really want to monitor.
Yeah.
The alarms on the MXM become critical, because while we're talking about spending a good amount of money that's important to you, your car is also important. And if you overheat the transmission, you overheat the differential or the engine, your racing's over, and it's a way more expensive problem.
Oh, yeah.
So
trust me, a replacement transmission for my car makes this look real cheap, to be honest. If you want me
that's
to be
where I think
it's insurance. Yeah. Just justify it because it's insurance.
Right. I think the extra alarms make it really powerful.
Okay.
Now, if you told me you had a 2016 Cayman and you did a whole bunch of track days and you want to log the car stuff and maybe you want to add these extra sensors, the Solo 2 is perfect, right? The thing has a great dash in it. It's going to light up and yell at you. And the new cars with the limp modes, you probably can't. You'd have to work to hurt it.
Mm-hmm.
Your car comes down to what you're paying attention to and what you monitor. So get those alarms in there. On the dash, we don't call them idiot lights, but the thing will start flashing at you and go, "Hey, idiot, you're overheating your car."
Right. Right.
And then you get to pick. Like, I work with a driver. We were at VIR. It's close to the end of the race. The thing starts to overheat. We're like, "You should park it." He goes, "I think I can make it." And he keeps going and going and going. And he comes on the front straight and he goes, "It's getting kind of tight." And he goes, "It stopped. I'm on the side." He made that choice that he
Yeah.
knew how much the motor cost and he knew how well he wanted to place, and he went for it. The rest of us see the yellow, we back off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we try to get it back before we have red and we melt the thing down.
Well, it still gave him the option.
Yeah, but it
Having
gave
that
him all the
information.
info.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. He
told
knew
him
what he
we
was
thought.
risking for sure.
Absolutely. But he knew. And
Yeah.
that's where, when you get the MXM, you don't have to try to read that number and try to figure out which one it is if you're busy and you're in the heat of the battle. It's going to give you a light that says this is not okay anymore.
Yeah. No, I need that. And don't worry, I don't need buzzers because you won't hear it in my car. It's not possible. But flashy lights work for me. So
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. As soon as I saw it and I started evaluating it and reading about it, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what I need to do in my life. But I'd rather hear it from you guys and, get the lowdown on how the ecosystem evolves, how you can move in and out of it and upgrade it and things like that is important. I think for the dollar, the MXM is like your intro to Dash's crack pipe. It's like, here, burn your lips on this.
Just a little taste.
Yeah.
Just have a little taste. Yeah.
Right.
Slippery slope.
First one's free.
It's not free, but yeah.
It's not. That's not. But
one of the other cool things, the AIM products hold their used value so much. So as Bryc is raging at you for selling it on Marketplace, you regain a lot of value. So it doesn't make the upgrade painful.
Right.
You didn't buy it for 1,000 and you sold it for 200.
Correct.
You get something really reasonable for it, because it's sort of an aside, but also to that part is the AIM support is really top notch in that they will fix everything as long as they can. And the parts are available at super, super reasonable rates. So you could have this MXM for almost ever. They're still fixing stuff that might have been produced. Geez, like you mentioned the other day, Bryc, like you guys still fix some Micron 3s, right?
if we have the parts, pretty much anything. I mean, we like generally do a 2-year manufacturer warranty on, anything that's not caused by a crash or user error or things like that. So, anything like that is going to be fixable and fixed under warranty. But with the older stuff, it's as long as we have parts, if we can fix it, we'll fix it. And we'll charge you for whatever the parts cost us. And that's it.
Awesome.
So, right. So you hold the value in it. So you get the MXM and you decide in a year or two you want to upgrade.
Right.
You still have something that's worth something, and it makes that upgrade path less painful.
Unless Bryc sells it, and then he's going to get lowballed. That $200 part, he's going to get a $20 offer on. But yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine if someone called us and was like, "Hey, would you take half price for one of your dashes? I'll pay 50%. Can I get an MXM for $500?"
Right.
Right.
So, okay. So it's 2025 now, and I'm dumb, and I decided to do a segment like everybody else, and I didn't warn you guys about this. So just like I didn't really warn you guys about the whole podcast in general, we just agreed to do one.
That's all right. So, we're seat of the pants, people.
Good. So I'm going to make Matt go first. Matt, what is your favorite racer excuse?
Ooh. I don't know if I'd say this is my favorite, or like if I'm a chief instructor or something, my least acceptable.
Okay.
Could those be the same?
Sure.
My tires were cold.
This talk coming from the iRacing guy.
My tires were cold. It drives me nuts. It's like, because I live in New Hampshire, right? So in April, we'll go to the track, or in November, and it's like 40 degrees out. The track temp is like 30. Somebody spins, they do something, and they're like, "Oh, my tires are cold." I'm like, what part of this was surprising? Like, was it the cold? Like, you thought your car was in a heated garage all night? Like, when did we not realize it was cold? Because I can see you wearing like a hat and gloves,
Right.
and like your winter coat. So that's probably my favorite that people give me, and my least favorite to hear.
Okay. Bryc, what's your favorite racer excuse?
Mine's just any time that the driver is saying they didn't do something where the data clearly shows that is in fact what they did. Because it's just that the data never lies. The data never lies. So it doesn't matter what you tell me. You started braking way early. I can see it right here.
I know.
I was flat.
I swear I was flat.
Yeah, I was flat. No, your
was
throttle
flat.
trace says you're at 85%.
It feels flat at
Okay.
the time, right? Up the S's and at VIR, like it feels that way.
If we have a moment for that story, I worked with someone on an oval, and I came in. I said, "You got to be flat through the oval," and they said, "I am." And I said, "Like, look, no, you're not." So this goes on for 3 or 4 sessions, and then they're like, they come in. I look, I'm like, you're closer. You're still not flat. And they said, I was flat. I had both feet on the gas pedal with all my might. The car bent. When it loaded up, the car would twist enough, he'd lose like 3% of throttle the way
wow.
the cable linkage went.
Okay. Maybe sometimes the data is a little bit off, but
All right,
for
that's
the most
different.
part.
That's
Right.
different. But
it's only happened once.
I thought
Maybe they
you were
pushed
going to
hard
say
enough, they
like
bent the car.
their seat was just that much far back and they couldn't actually get it to the floor. That would be my problem. But all right, gentlemen, I really appreciate you guys coming on. Matt, where can everybody find you and your products?
Oh, you can find me at trailbreak.com, and I've got a YouTube channel going with a bunch of tech tips and everything. Just like Bryc pushed me a little bit and gave me some motivation and something to try to duplicate. So you'll find me on YouTube, and I do my best to keep my Instagram going. But trailbreak.com is the best way to grab me.
Yep. And you, Bryc, where can everybody find you? And the AIM stuff, AIM USA, I think.
Yeah, so AIM stuff is going to be aimsports.com for YouTube. If you just search AIM Sports Data, we got a bunch of stuff on there, including some of the stuff that I do. Instagram is also at AIM Sports Data. And then for my stuff, my Instagram is just at Bryc Tally. And I also have a YouTube that's Bryc Tally. So if you want to subscribe to that too, that'd be sweet.
And is it just Subarus on your YouTube page?
It's, I've got an OBS Ford F-150 that I've done some stuff to recently that's kind of cool. It's Subaru heavy.
Okay.
I'll tell you that.
All right.
But I don't post there a whole lot, but I try to do stuff sometimes.
I do appreciate the lack of a Monster Energy can in your hand or a flat brim hat on right now. So
I can't remember where I left my vape. It's around here somewhere.
Thanks again, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Anytime. That was a blast.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.